my channel. Now, if you haven't been here before, my channel is called Come Sew With Me, and that's exactly what we do. So come sew with me. Now I'm just going to get right into it today, and today I thought I would give you a bit of a tricky one to do. So what we're actually going to do is make these curtains that are actually behind me here. It's very fiddly, very time consuming, because you actually have to sew up each and every individual strip to create your curtains. And if you have a few colors like I have here, yeah, it's going to take you a little while because I needed to change over my threads to match each color. But you can have these as plain as you want or as colorful as you like. Now, I actually love these curtains because they give you that little bit of privacy so that you can leave your bedroom doors open. And I don't know, I just think they're fun. Me personally, I think they're fun. But before I go any further, I do need to talk about these poles. Now, these poles are called extender poles. And you can extend them out and you tighten them up. And you can put them anywhere you want. They have rubber ends on them, which are very, very good for doorways and not leaving a mark anywhere. So basically, renters, these are awesome. Now we get these from Bunnings. Bunnings here in Australia, they have it usually up in the back aisles, and Bunnings actually do have a little curtain section there. So they're extender poles. Now these ones are the small ones. That's basically how you buy them. Still in the bag. You can get any size, but I actually bought a whole heap of these because we only rent. So in our rental property, so that we don't damage doorways or anything, I use these extender poles. So I will, in a second, show you what the doorway looks like with a curtain and without a curtain. So hang tight and we'll do that right now. So remember when I said these curtains just hide enough that you actually don't have to close the door and you still have a little bit of privacy. So this is what these curtains look like when they're on there, and that's what it looks like when they're not. So you can obviously see that they do give a little bit more privacy, and they look good. I love them. They look great on the doorways. So I'll just pop this one back because this is where this one goes. Right here on my craft room door. And that's how easy those poles are to use, guys. The rubber on the end is not going to damage any paintwork, and they are good enough to hold the weight of the curtain. That's my little sidekick. She's barking. But anyway, so that's these poles, guys. I love these curtains. I love these curtains. And they're pretty much strip curtains because they're made up of strips. But come back in and we will work on them and I'll show you how we start. So I'll stop it here and we'll come back in. So we're back again and I'm just trying to ignore my little sidekick. She's knocking on the door on me again. Now, these curtains are made out of, the top is cotton, like, you know, just like quilting cotton, any sort of cotton. And the strips are actually chiffon. Now chiffon is an interesting fabric because it moves around a lot. It's actually beautiful fabric, really, on clothing. It is just gorgeous because the movement that it creates is just beautiful. But trying to cut it is a little bit painful. So for a start, for your curtains or for your strips, we need 2 meters, a 2 meter length to create your strip, because a doorway is not quite 2 meters high, but you just allow for any mistakes that you might make, or or being able to have it longer if you want it to go right down to the floor. My curtains I actually made to come off the floor about that far, so that my little dog can get in. So choice is yours, up to you. You do whatever you feel. You don't, again, like I always say, you don't actually have to do exactly what everyone else does. So now, chiffon comes in this width, which is really good. Sometimes it can be not the length, it's the width. Sometimes it can be a little bit shorter, other times maybe a fraction longer, but not too much. So there's not too many variations in different colors, luckily. Now the best way that I can explain to you in cutting it is fold it in half and cut the chiffon once you fold it in half. So you just cut it straight down. Now you're looking at a 2 meter length, so it is going to be a little bit difficult. But look, I can't give you any advice on how to cut it. You just need to work with it the best way you can. So your lines are not necessarily going to be straight. They're going to probably be a little bit wobbly. It depends on how good you are with scissors, whether you want to cut and get through it really fast or take your time and really put an effort into it. It's up to you. But so we cut it in half, then you pretty much just keep going. Cut it in half, then in half again. And basically you're probably going to get, I'll give you a measurement, a rough measurement, remembering. So that's that's in half and then folded in half again. You're probably going to get about 13.5 inches on that. But what I would do is then cut this piece in 3. Yeah, I'm not sure. Actually, I have got a strip here. I'll just grab one of my strips. One, 2. Oh, no, okay. Well, we're going to cut this in half again, and then each piece in half again. So you're going to end up with strips roughly between 3 and 4 inches wide, if you can see that. Now, like I said, some of them maybe a little bit bigger and others a little bit smaller. But you just work with what you've got. And the idea that I do this, well, my main idea is I don't like wasted fabric. I like to use the fabric on whatever I'm doing and use it all up somehow. So yeah, just keep cutting until it's all gone, basically. So then, now that's those strips, remembering 2 meters long, and the strips are about 3 to 4 inches wide. Now this piece, is just plain cotton. That piece is, we've got a piece 6 inches wide, and what we did is we made it the length of my mat here, which is 34 inches long. Measure your doorways, because everyone's doorways are different. Most of them, like actually every doorway in this house is a different width. It's not, yeah, I think that's quite strange actually. But anyway, there's not much we can do about that. So measure your doorways. You want this piece to fit onto your rod. There, you want them to fit on your rods, and your rods be nicely within the doorway. So that's the length. Now, sewing on the ends, whatever width your doorway is, add 1.5 inches to it, because you're pretty much then got 3/4 of an inch on each side to be able to do a double fold. Okay, I'll show you how we do that. Now you can start with doing your strips first. Or you can do the top first. Now because I already have all my tops done, I'm just going to show you on this small piece what I did. So I'll bring you close up. Now all I do is I fold it. Okay, that's your 6 inches, and that is 34 inches. But this piece is not 34 inches. So we just fold it over. Now for this first one, and just straight stitch, don't need anything fancy. About 1/4 of an inch seam allowance is all you need to have for that first one. Oh, actually, I made a mistake. Sorry, guys. Because we actually have to do the ends first. I can't get that end off. So I'll just pull this one out. Yeah, your 3/4 of an inch comes in here. Just going to make sure I got enough. We do not like seam rippers. We do not like them at all, but they do come in handy when we make little boo-boos, like I just did. All right, now your side seam. Fold it over. That's probably a little bit more than, 1/4 of an inch. And I have this wonderful tool that I'm trying to find. That's gone missing. Yeah, it's disappeared. Don't know where it's gone. But anyway, I have this little tool that kind of flattens this out for me. So you just use anything to give that a bit of an iron, bit of a press. Then we fold it over again. And this is your edging. I'm going to leave the orange thread in here so you can actually see. And there you go. So that's about 3/4 of an inch on that side. Stitch it down. And there you go. That is all you do. And you do that on the back, of course, because there's your fabric there. Now, once you do that, then we go back. and we stitch this piece together. So as you can see, I've done a few of these, so I don't really go that slow. Now you pull it through the right way. Everyone has tools for doing this, all sorts of stuff, or different knacks actually. Me at the moment, nope, there we go, that's good. Ignore my little bits of thread hanging out, because normally when you do this properly, you would not have that. Now again, just sort of like finger press it, like so. Now on the other one, on these ones, I've gone up on the stitched area, just a little over 1/4 of an inch. So not a scant 1/4 of an inch, it's a good 1/4 of an inch. And then we run a stitch right along there, along that edge. Now that is my sewn edge. Then up the top, it doesn't really matter how big you do this one. You can do it as big as you want, really. This one is just the gather, which I will show you again here. It's just that little gather that we usually have on the top of curtains and all sorts of stuff. No, it's just curtains. It's just a decorative gather which is on all curtains. So you can do it as wide as you want or as small as you want. So in this case, I'm just going to guesstimate here and just do it here. So zip straight down. And there you go. And that is how you do your curtain rod pocket. So what happens then is the rod goes in there, and those particular rods up there going quite nicely. Now this edge is where we sew the curtains onto. This edge, that's your top. So that's that. Now I'll show you how to sew the strips. Keep losing my cushion. Now, as you can see, my strips are not perfect. It's just not perfect. Okay? So you work with what you work with. Now you fold them in half. And we just sew that end, one end closed. My machine does a back stitch, like, you know, a tacking stitch. So with anyone who has a normal sewing machine, all you would do is just go backwards, like you would start it and go forward, then go backwards, then go forward again. And that's how we pretty much lock the stitches off. There are other ways. You could even... Another way is to close your stitches down really tight to a small, really tiny stitch, and you do about several stitches, and then you turn the dial back up to where you need it. But up to you. My machine has the backwards and forward tacking stitch automatically, so I don't have to worry about that sort of stuff. Now, you decide how wide you want to sew it. So as you can see, there's a little bit over, you know, it's not meeting up precisely, but that doesn't matter because the fun of these curtains is for them not to be perfect. Each and every one can actually be different. You could have different colors in different sizes, which would look really good. Actually, that would make for an interesting curtain. So we just zoom on down like this. Nothing about this is perfect. It is just very time consuming. So just remember that. Nothing about it is perfect. Don't really need perfection with something like this. It's just fun. And anybody can do this, even beginner sewers, you can do this. So easy. Get to the end and you just tack it off. So forwards, backwards again. Now I will do that once more for you to see. I have one more strip to do. So here we go. We fold it in half. And with chiffon, luckily, the front really looks like the back. So I don't really worry about finding the front and the back on this at the moment because it all looks the same. Now again, fold it over, tack the top end. So we've done a stitch up the top, then, and it depends again on which side you want to work with. Might try and do this one a little bit smaller. So backwards, forwards, backwards. Run it down. Reposition your fabric. Run it down again. Now any sewing machine will do this. Any sewing machine will do this. So if you're just a beginner sewer and you've bought a nice little cheapie, because yeah, unfortunately sewing machines are expensive. Some brands are really expensive. So get a nice little cheapie and your little cheapies will do this work. And your cheapies are not going to cost a fortune. And this is all we do, guys. Tack it off and there you go. That is done. So what you've got now is you've got the beginnings of your strips. That's the inside of your strip, and you've actually got your rod pocket done. So we have this and we have a strip. Now like I said, these strips are what's going to take time making these, because you need to cut them, which takes forever, and sew them, which will give you practice actually to see how straight you can sew. But that's your piece. So I'm just going to quickly continue on with turning it in the right way. Now I have this little tool here. It's gone, oh no, there it is. Now I bought this from a quilting store. No, actually from a quilting show. And it's just really called a purple thing, which is really funny. So it can be used for many different things. As you can see, there's a hole in it, so it can be used as a plastic needle. But I usually use that end, and what we do to turn these in is we get that up on the stitched end, the end that we've stitched, pull it through. This part's quite easy sometimes, but then other fabrics are a bit painful. Like when I was doing these ones, the red ones were a little bit stiffer and made this job a little bit painful. Took a lot longer than what it should have. And there you go. So we've pulled it through. Pull that down. And just kind of, you know, work your way down to turn it in the right way. And that is all you do. Now you poke out the corners. You want nice corners. Well, you know, it doesn't have to be perfect, just a nice corner. Now I have to pick this up. My wheels on my chair doesn't like moving on the carpet. Now the edge that we've just pulled out, the stitched edge, we still have an open edge, okay? So the stitched edge, I'm going to pop that under my sewing machine. It's probably about 1/4 of an inch. And I'm just going to sew that, and then right on the, in between that 1/4 of an inch, I'm going to do another stitch. Now that is all I do. Then I just cut all these silly little threads off without cutting my fabric, because this fabric, chiffon, cuts very, very easy, so you don't want to wreck it, you know, all that beautiful hard work you've done, and then you put a hole in it. I know, that's happened to me a few times. And move my chair out of the way. Grab a clip. And I put it on. Actually, I'll get this down so I can show you. Doesn't matter what side, because both sides are the same. But this is the sewn edge, as you can see. And this 1/4 of an inch is actually a line that you're going to work with. So I'll just clip this one in place. So at this stage, what you would do, standing all over it, guys. At this stage, or hopefully before you get to here, you would decide what your color combination is. And you can either clip or pin, which I don't really have a lot of pins there in other things that I've got to do. I've got one more orange one left to go there. So you clip it or pin it into place, and I'll come back to you shortly and I'll show you how we sew this, because it actually gets a little bit tricky having all this weight and putting it under the sewing machine. So it is a little bit tricky, but guys, you can do it. So I'll be back in a second. Guys, I'm back again. I just wanted to show you again with this last strip that I had to do, what I do here again. So we're about 1/4 of an inch in, and I'm just tacking it. And do a second one, because you can, and it really makes it nice and secure. So again, cut off all these threads. My sewing machine does leave a few threads, so I just usually trim them off. And there you go. Now the last thing I need to do is clip this one into place, which I know where it goes. It goes just here. And clip it into place. And that's it. So my curtain is pretty much all organized. Now I'm going to fight with it for a bit to sew. Now, like I said, this is the difficult part. Try to relieve yourself of some of this weight. If you could tuck it up on the table, yeah, go for it, but I've got too much junk on mine. All right, well, actually, nope, I have to change threads, so give me a couple of minutes. Now, actually, no, I'm going to show you this. When you get to know your sewing machine, it's easy to thread and unthread everything that you need. And this is why I say to you, learn your sewing machine. Get to know your sewing machine and see what your sewing machine does. See how it threads up. But a quick, easy way of doing it is cutting the thread like so. Tie it into a knot. And there we go. Now I do actually do this with all my sewing machines, not just this one. And then you just pull it through so that we are not always threading and re-threading the sewing machine. Now we'll see how I go with my eyes at threading this. I usually have a little bit of trouble. Oh, look at that, first pop. I'm impressed with myself. Pull that through. Now, I have to change my bobbin. And I always have bobbins threaded up with the threads that I need, with the colours I need. So this is the orange one. I've now got green. So pop that in. Make sure we go in the right way. I have this little safety feature that I pull out. But this is just my sewing machine, guys, not yours. Now, grab your thread, roll your needle down by turning the wheel of your sewing machine and bring up that thread. Close that. Now, something else that I do every time I change my thread so that we never have any mishaps is test it. And it wasn't meant to do that actually. And always make sure that everything is working properly. And it is. So you get to know your sewing machine. Get to know everything about it, and threading up and rethreading will become quite easy. So we get our piece in. Like I said, this part is a little bit tricky. Try to get it about that 1/4 inch away and make sure you've got the pieces on the edge. There we go. So I'm just going to start sewing. Get the next clip off. Now when we go here, this is where you will learn to do your reversing as well. So this will teach you to do the reversing on your sewing machine. Go across to the next piece. And it's not going to be perfect, okay? So don't think that this job is going to be perfect, because it's not. Go across to your next one and go backwards. Then we continue like this. Now, I'm actually going to speed the rest of this video up, but we are going to sew this on because we do a couple of lines of sewing. So the rest of this, I'm not actually going to talk. We're going to speed it up, okay? So just watch them. We're going to speed away. There we go. So that is probably the most tedious part of this whole project. But this next part is also tricky. So what we're going to do now is we've just sewn it on that side. We now have to turn it over to the front. Or actually, we're not actually turning it over. We've just run a stitch down there, as you can see. Now what we're doing is we're tucking that over, because curtains will get pulled and tugged a bit. So you really want to make sure that you've got this quite secure. So make sure the piece underneath, which is there, it's sitting facing that way, and we're pulling the tassels or the strips back over this way. Now we've got to this very edge here, so you've got about a good 3/4 of an inch there. And again, guys, you're not going to get this perfect, so don't try. Just run it down. We don't have to go forwards and backwards on this one. Just run it down and do the best you can. We're just really securing this in its place. And we do a couple of lines of stitching to help do this. And make sure our strips don't come flying off. So again, we're going to speed this part up. So, there we go. Now you're going to need to make sure this is down properly. So we're going to run a stitch up on this top edge. It's all just to make sure this is securely in place, because you don't really want this to come apart. So this line, it's probably a little bit faster. You've done your fiddly line. And yeah, you're going to slip off at places, but that's okay. As long as the majority are on there and in place, it's still going to look nice. And I do one extra just for security. So I pretty much go in between those two lines again. Make sure I don't stitch anything underneath. Now I've made a couple of these, so I know what I'm doing here. Now, the reason why you want it to have it the thread the same color as what you're using for your top is, I'll show you why. I'll just cut off a few little threads here. Because that is pretty much your back, the back of your work. And then that is the front of your work. Either way you have it, you're actually not really going to see a lot of that stitching anyway when it's hooked up. Oh, I've caught one here. Damn. Gonna have to unpick that. It's all right. It's easy enough to do. But there you go, guys. Besides that one there catching, which is easy enough with an unpicker, and then I just run over it again. So if you do make a little mistake, this is how we fix it. We undo that thread there, pull that piece out, and look, even the best of us make mistakes, guys. So if you're a learner and you're making mistakes, don't worry about it. We all do. And that's why we have unpickers. Some of us don't really want to say or admit that we have unpickers, but we do. So I just fix up, pull out those threads, the loose threads, and then I just quickly run back over that piece again. There it is. I don't like loose threads hanging out everywhere, so I'm pretty big on cutting threads. There you go. It's only a small section, and this is how you repair. You just repair. So there's the piece that I've pulled out, and I pulled off my, and we don't mind redoing something. There we go, and this is how you fix it. Because I did exactly what I said not to do, and I got one of my straps caught up. And there we go. Easy fix. Okay, so I'm going to leave it at that for now. I'll hook this back up, and then we'll talk about the bottom. So I'll be back in a second. And we're back again. All right, guys, so we've done the majority of this curtain. All you need to do now is put it where it's got to go and cut your strips to the length that you need them. Now we do one other little thing with these curtains, and that is I'll do it to this one because this one's one of the shorter ones, so I'll use this one and I'll show you. Now I have sinkers. Yes, ladies, sinkers. I have sinkers in the bottom of my curtain. Now I got these from a fishing shop. Now don't forget, everyone, all the shops that I mention here on my channel, they're all Australian shops. But our Bunnings is a hardware store, so something equivalent to Bunnings in America is probably Lowe's. A fishing shop, however, I have no idea. I have no clue. But this is a little sinker, a little lead sinker. Now you can get any size that you want. This size is actually, here in Australia, it's called a number 10. And you buy it in a pack, a little pack of all these little sinkers. All I do is I put these sinkers inside my strips, then I sew it closed, and when we close it, we do one fold, like we've got our stitch there to close it to keep our sinker in. Then we go one fold, two folds, and that's all we do. So I'll quickly show you that, but I'm going to show you that with another one because I want to leave the curtain there. So we'll pretend this is the end of those curtains that we've done. You've cut it down to your length, right, and try to get it as straight as you possibly can. I cannot tell you an easy way to do that one either, because actually I personally lay on my stomach, which is a bit of a funny thing to see, and everyone says to me, what are you doing down there? But I lay on my stomach with my scissors, and that's how I cut my length. So, and I'm going to leave the green thread in here because this, I'm just showing you, and I can always take this thread off. But once you get all your lengths done, put your sinker in there. Just let it go inside. We close it up. So I'm just going to close it up on that little seam that's there. So you're backwards and forwards, backwards and forwards. Make sure the sinker is out of your way. We do need to keep these threads trimmed up. Actually, I've got another pair of scissors here. try to keep all these threads to a minimal because chiffon does do this. Now, first fold and second fold. It's a bit tricky. And there we go. Get it in our sewing machine. Close to the top edge as possible. Do your stitch and then do another one below it. These are pretty much, the reason why I do this sort of amount of stitching, I think, is because chiffon has a tendency of fraying. And I guess I don't want it to fray eventually. And I do want to wash these curtains, and you can. The best way to wash them is in your washing machine, but you pop them in a laundry bag. So that's the best way to wash them. And I'll just talk about this top I've got on in a second too. So there we go. That's all we do. Our sinker is inside. And it just holds the curtain down just a little bit, you know, and gives it a little bit of weight. Now, what I think is really nice about these curtains is that imperfect line. I think it's just gorgeous. The first time I did them, I actually thought it looked a lot like a jellyfish. Jellyfish tentacles. So could you imagine a stuffed toy with jellyfish tentacles on it? So I love the imperfection of it, and I just think they look beautiful. I'm probably a little bit nutty, but I don't mind. I love colourful things, and the colours I chose because those colours reflect the colours that I've actually got in my lounge area at the moment. So beautiful colours. So I hope you enjoyed that one. Now this top, last week's video I made fun tops, which these are the two. Well, this is the one that I made on camera, and that was the other one that I cut but I didn't finish while it's finished. So they're both just sitting there. Now this is my fun top, and remember I said I cut my tassels a lot longer, and with my beads I actually had 4, 6, 10, I've got 13 beads on it. So this was just my version of my fun top. And this shirt, I also cut the neckline down because I don't like really tight necklines. But this is my little version of a fun top. So you can actually do anything that you like. You can, you know, with the fun tops that I showed you last week. And the same with our curtains. Be creative. Do colours that you like and choose things that you have in your house, basically, in your lounge or wherever you're going to have these. Choose your colours and choose them. It's just fun. You can have lots of colours or hardly any colours. But I love them. I have now made, this one is the 4th one in this colour range. I think I've got 1, 2, 3. Yeah, this is my 4th one. I will be doing a couple more for my walking robe and my ensuite, because like I said, it just stops, it gives you a little bit of privacy, just enough that it's nice. So that's it without it, and then that's it with it. They're just nice. So if you like curtains like I do, have a go, try them, test them out, see how you go. And I'm going to leave it there. I think I might get going now. So guys, thanks for watching my channel, and please like, subscribe, share with a friend, because we've still got heaps of things to come yet. This is just a small portion of some of the things that we've had laying around and we had to finish. So yeah, until next time, bye.